So I'll call the meeting to order at 6:37. We'll open with the Pledge of Allegiance. The awkward Pledge of Allegiance by Zoom.
Where's the flag?
I pledge allegiance.
Somebody hold up a flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For further Zoom meetings, I think Don want to hold up a little tiny flag so we can.
A good idea, James. Okay. So Chip, if you see any hands go up, I'll let you call on anyone who might have public comment. So I would ask.
Well, I'm not a host of the meeting.
Oh, Dom, are you the host?
Kristen could do it. Dom or Kristen, or someone could make me host.
Make you a co-host.
I see Eric has his hand up.
So let's start public comment with Eric Johnson. Eric, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
All right. Eric Johnson here, Ferris Street resident, St. Albans. I just have a statement to kind of go through for Ferris Street real quick. I'd like to start by thanking St. Albans City and Marty again. I said it before, for the work that was completed this summer on Ferris Street. The road was due for some much needed repair, including the naturally occurring speed bumps that had formed over the years. It's unfortunate to see that we've already had a portion removed due to utility repair. While the hole at the end of Ferris has been patched, we hope to see it back to its regular glory as far as the summer went this spring. This isn't the reason for my public comment. I've come to present concerns related to the recent improvements of Ferris Street and the continued problems with parking, bus routing, and speeding. With regards to parking, prior to the recent improvements, there were signs marking no parking here to corner about 20 yards up from the Ferris-Lincoln intersection. After construction was complete, the sign was reinstalled about 50 yards up from the same intersection. This has exacerbated some of the limited parking problems we've experienced on Ferris Street, being a narrow street. Further, multiple incidents in the area between Ferris and Fairfield Street on Lincoln have occurred due to the increased number, and we're not sure why, of vehicles parked on the side of that street and the number of people that come off of Fairfield onto Lincoln very quickly. It's continued that, along with the additional bus traffic and traffic down to that corner, has exacerbated both morning and evening commuting times. The bus routing, I was informed with the design review board announcement that discussed the BFA routing project through Ferris Street after the fact, which is understandable. I mean, announcements go out, but I was told that the neighbors of the BFA renovation project were informed of the DRB meeting and only one neighbor appeared. After some discussions with other neighbors on Ferris Street, we've determined through search of Front Porch Forum, Facebook, email announcements, and other digital avenues that we're unable to find any type of announcement for the DRB review specific to BFA's project affecting Ferris Street. We're not sure if the naming Ferris Street wasn't included in the DRB announcement or if it was older than 3 years, which is kind of the search we were able to go back as far. The speeding of both the buses and drop-off traffic that we've observed in the mornings and afternoons when students let out has been reported over the years to both Public Works as well as the police department. The speeding tied with the increase in bus traffic has introduced further safety concerns in our neighborhood. Seeing there's a lot of children, animals, and people that walk on our neighborhood, especially with the new sidewalks, which is great, they're out of the road. But having one sidewalk on the south side, people do with COVID get off. So anyways, I digress with that part. With regards to speeding, particularly during morning hours commute, we see that a lot of people bypass Fairfield Street and take Ferris to drop their students off at the turnaround, which is now the bus exit at the bottom of Ferris. The previously naturally occurring speed bumps of our roads slowed the traffic somewhat, but now that it's a nice smooth surface with the recent improvements, again, thank you for the improvements, that's reducing speed hasn't occurred. It's actually seen an increase in this number of people flying up and down Ferris Street. I'd like to propose the city review a city speed ordinance limit. We have one currently in the ordinances, but it's 25. We'd like to have a review done for the smaller and more narrow road neighborhoods. For example, Ferris and Rugg Street, as well as others down in both sides of Route 7, as we think a reduction in speed would help increase the safety of these neighborhoods. Some of the Ferris Street residents recall the last time the road was fully resurfaced was about 20 years ago. This increased traffic, both from the buses as well as the speed, is likely to mostly wear our roads down quicker again. And with long term in between the renovations, we're hoping this recent investment into the city's infrastructure would want to be maintained a little longer. So I implore the City Council to review and consider some changes that will secure the recent investment into our infrastructure for another 20 years. So thank you for the time, Eric.
Eric, I have one clarification question for you. So buses go down Ferris to load and unload?
Now they're coming up Ferris out of BFA, and multiple neighbors have attested to them, and I've reported it to the school district that the buses have excessive speed going up our road, realizing they are larger vehicles, but they're accelerating at a high speed up our road, and oftentimes as vehicles parked on either side, or sorry, on the north side, when they do come through in the afternoon, and it seems fast for our small neighborhood.
But where do the buses enter?
I believe Chip and Marty, I think they're entering through Fairfield and they come out Ferris.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Eric? Eric, we'll talk about it with Dom, Chip, and Marty, and then one of us will get back to you.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else on the call that would like to make public comment?
I'm not seeing any other hands.
Okay. Seeing none, we will move on. Eric, once again, thank you for your time. We're going to move to, I know Alex has another call at 7. So we're going to bring on Alex Lenning to talk about a request that I presented to him that the City Council was in agreement to, or was open to the conversation when we did our goals and strategies discussion. So Alex, and I hope everyone saw what I sent out today, which was the quick proposal that Alex had pulled together and I shared with all of you. So Alex, are you on with us?
Yes.
Okay, I will turn it over to you, Alex. And once again, this was a proposal focused on a potential exhibit at the museum for regarding the Underground Railroad. So Alex, the floor is yours.
Thanks for your time and squeezing me in. I'm sorry, we have a museum program at 7 tonight, so I only have a couple minutes to be with you. But I wanted to just quickly review the proposal for Finding Freedom, the Legacy of Abolitionism and the Underground Railroad in Northwest Vermont, which is a proposed traveling and digital exhibition that will focus on the history of the abolitionist anti-slavery movement in Northwestern Vermont, looking at primary and secondary sources, historical archaeology, and then making connections to contemporary racial justice movements. So we're hopeful that it will promote deeper learning and conversation with our community, that it'll be accompanied by resources for use by students, educators, and the general public, and that we'll produce a bibliography as well. Just to give you a sense of scope, we're looking at sources from our own collections, as well as collaborating with the Rokeby Museum, UVM, and the Vermont Historical Society. In addition to myself, we have a group of 7 museum volunteers and community members who are interested in helping to bring this educational program to life. And I've outlined a series of milestones as well as a draft budget. And just to be mindful of time, I'm happy to answer any questions or speak more directly to any of these points that are outlined here.
And I would just like to point out, Alex, that some of those volunteers have joined us today, so they are welcome to chime in as well. So feel free to share any comments.
Alex, this is Chad. Is there going to be like a map where folks can go around and if there is there going to be plaques or some kind of marker at the location, or maybe that's in the map that's going to talk about that specific location?
So we've got a couple different opportunities here. One is to create something that folks can access online from anywhere in terms of historical geography and local history. One consideration for this project that wasn't entirely built into this proposal is that we could use the information gathered from the research to move forward with historic markers. The last time there was a survey done by the DHP, I think was the 90s. So certainly there's some opportunities there for a digital exhibition, a traveling exhibition that we hope can go directly into schools, as well as a component that folks could access on the ground in town as well as online, if that makes sense.
Any other questions of Alex? So Alex, I may have missed it. What would you see as a timeline for completing this?
So our goal would be to finish our initial research into the early spring and start doing the development of the various pieces with a goal of launching the digital portion of the exhibition in late summer, early fall, and then hopefully having the traveling component ready for the coming semester after that. So we see this taking between 8 months to a year, which is in line with our previous exhibit projects.
And just for our budgetary purposes, assuming we approve this and we want to move forward with it, would this be money you would need upfront or bill as you go? Just trying to look at our budget years.
And I think we're pretty flexible. We could either move in a direction where we bill as we go, or set up some sort of payment schedule where maybe a third comes at one time, a third halfway through, and a third at the end.
Council, any other questions of Alex?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to say thank you to Alex and the others who helped put this together. I think this would be an amazing resource for our community. Thanks, Alex.
Dom, how do you want to move forward? This would be added to the budget, or do you want us to vote on it? How would you like to progress?
You're muted, Dom.
You're muted, Dom.
That's my strategy tonight, to be sure I choose my words correctly. No, we'll add it to the forthcoming budget proposal, and we can take it up as part of that.
Okay. Council, any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Alex, just to repeat what Kate said, thank you for your time. Thank you to your volunteers for their time and commitment to this. And I would agree with Kate that this would be a great asset for the region and for our schools. So I think you can pretty much consider it a go, right, Dom? Is that?
Sure, yeah. It's a go into the budget, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
Alex, thank you. We appreciate your time.
Take care.
All right, thank you. All right, we will now move on to item number 4, which is the consider the appointment of new police chief.
Thank you. It's my distinct pleasure to recommend the appointment of Morris Mo Lamoth as the Chief of Police and Emergency Management for the City of St. Albans. And Chief Lamoth has ably served in that position for the last 6 months. He's inspired the confidence of the troops. He's inspired my confidence. And I think many of the public as well, as he has embraced the transformation roadmap that the council laid out and immediately put into practice some of the principles of 21st century policing. We couldn't have asked for more over the last 6 months. And in the interview process, he really stood out as the candidate that was heads and tails above others. We had a 5-person interview committee advising on this process. He was a unanimous choice. And some of the words used to describe his candidacy were quintessential community police officer, deep ties to the community, really gets 21st century policing. So it's my recommendation that the council appoint Chief Lamothe as our new chief.
And I heartily make a motion that we accept that recommendation and appoint Morris Lamothe as our next chief of police for the city of St. Albans.
We have a motion from Jim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That was Chad. Yep, Chad seconded. Let's see if any comments, questions on process, anything along those lines from the council?
Mr. Mayor, I also heard from folks in my neighborhood how supportive they were of Chief Mo as the acting chief. I just wondered if, for the record, if Dom, you wanted to talk a little bit about the process and the number of applicants, just in case anybody from the public is interested in sort of how Chief Lamothe rose to the top and what our process was like.
Sure. It was a national search. We talked with, we modeled it on Montpelier's search. They were the most recent community that had been similarly situated to us and had some success. And we placed ads in roughly a dozen publications, traditional ones such as the Chiefs of Police Association, and that's the big one, and also the League of Cities and Towns and other regional publications for the leagues. And we also made some efforts to reach out to sites that specialize in non-traditional police candidates representing people of color, et cetera. And we received 18 to 20 applicants. Did some initial screening of those candidates, calling around to their, using our connections to get a sense of what their background was like, and also just doing some basic internet research. And then we put together a slate of candidates and brought those before a 5-person interview advisory team, representatives from NCSS, our newly created police advisory board, the school system, a member of the public, and one of the officers. And so that was the team, and we went through, and as I mentioned in the intro, we were unanimous in our selection.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to make one quick comment. I talked with Mo shortly after the interview process. We talked about some of the concerns that I had, and I think Chief Lamothe did a really good job addressing how he was going to move forward with fixing some of those. And I too have heard from folks in my ward are very happy with Mo and the direction of the police department in the last 6 months. I know it's kind of a change from what we've been doing for the last 8 or 9 years, but I think it's turned a corner and is headed in the right direction. So I think this is a great decision. So.
Thank you, Chad. I too have heard from a number of people who like what Mo stands for and his skills. So I think this will And I think we've seen it over the last 6 months, to Chad's point. We've seen the community police officer initiated and a number of other things. So I'm excited about it. I think it'll be great for the community. And I know Mo is on with us tonight. What I'd like to do is vote on this unless there's any public comment. And then I'll let Mo say a few words. So looking to see if there's any public comments. If you see any, Dom, let me know.
You're good.
I'm not seeing any, so we have a motion on the floor to approve Chief Mo Lamont as a new St. Albans City Police Chief. All those in favor, say aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Aye.
can we do a roll call vote, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
We'll start with you, Chad.
I am a yes. Thank you. Sorry.
Mike McCarthy,
Yes.
Marie Bissett,
Yes.
Kate Laddison,
Yes.
Jim Pelkey,
Yes.
Tim Hawkins,
Yes.
and I would be a yes as well. So the motion is approved unanimously. Mo, I would invite you to join the conversation and feel free to make any comments.
Well,
Other than you don't accept.
no, I appreciate.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Is my audio working?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. I haven't tried this on my iPad, to be honest with you. So no, I appreciate the confidence you have given me and the opportunity to go forward in this position. I really appreciate the opportunity to do the acting to kind of prove myself up to this point. This is not me doing this. This is the department doing this and the city doing this. So I'm just steering the ship, but it takes everybody to do it. We are going in the right direction. Again, it's a team effort. We have some plans to continue building on our community policing. It's going to come together very well. It's just going to take a little bit of time. We have some great partnerships that are in progress and some great partnership ideas that we're going to put in place in the future. We need to get a little COVID behind us here, but it's going to work out well. But again, all the work that's come into this comes with all of the support we've had for the community, which has been actually overwhelming the last 6 months, and also from the city council and from the city manager. So again, this is a team effort. It starts with the PD, but it really comes full circle with the community. So I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you, Chief. I would also add that the Police Advisory Commission is up and running for the most part. At least they're making their plans to move forward. So timing is good between the establishing of the commission and your appointment as well. So
yes, looking forward to working with them. I've spoken to quite a few chiefs that have that type of advisory board, advisory commission in place, and I haven't heard anything negative on these. It's a great thing to have, a great tool, great resource to use, and I'm looking forward to working with them.
great. Anyone have any questions for Chief Lamont? Hearing none, Mo, on behalf of the entire council and the city, congratulations. We look forward to your tenure, and we think it's going to be a great match. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to item number 5 with Chip Sawyer. We'll be moving into a public hearing regarding the Almond Blossom Community Development Block Grant. Chip, are you
Yep.
with us?
Thank you very much. I think everyone's pretty familiar with this project by now, but we were awarded $500,000 so that the Almond Blossom Schoolhouse could purchase their building on Lake Street and renovate it to double the capacity to 60 licensed students. And this is a Vermont Community Development Program grant. So accepting the grant agreement does require the approval of a resolution by the City Council that assigns me as the grant administrator and authorizes the city manager to sign the grant agreement and other sub-grant agreements and other paperwork as necessary for the project. And the council is required to hold a public hearing just to get comments on the project, or the Vermont Community Development Program in general. But yeah, it's as simple as that. And the project's going smoothly so far. But now we'd like to really get into it.
Does anyone have any questions for Chip?
Make a motion, we approve the Almond Blossoms VCDP grant agreement.
Second.
Seconded by Chad, motion by Tim. Any further questions or comments? I would just say that childcare has really become, not that it wasn't in the forefront before, but with COVID, it's really the need for quality space has really come to the forefront even more so. And by adding these spaces, I think it'll be great for the region. So, any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor for approval of the grant agreement, say aye or thumbs up.
Aye.
I believe it is unanimous. Thank you all.
Thanks. You'll all be getting an email from the Agency of Commerce to do a little e-signing thing. They need some sort of signature on the document. We can't just say that you all passed a motion. So contact me if you have any technical difficulties, please.
And I would ask that, Kristen, you mark me down as recused on that because we do, we being FCIDC, my day job has a loan as part of the bridge process until the grant agreement is completed and dollars are received. So please mark me as recused.
And as far as disclosure is concerned, I voted in this matter, but I did prepare the legal paperwork for Almond Blossoms. But I don't think that
No
had a
comment.
my vote as yay or nay.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. We're going to move on to item number 6, which is a presentation from the Design Advisory Board. Chip, who is representing the board?
We have the chair of the DAB. It's Karen Marie Peltier joining us tonight. And I told her it would just be a chance to have a quick chat with the council and give you some updates and talk a little bit about what the DAB does.
Okay, thank you. Karen Marie, how are you? And thank you for making time to join us tonight.
I'm doing well, thanks. I really don't have a whole lot to share because we haven't had a whole lot going on this year, but but I thought, Chip said that you're starting the process of having every board come in and just sort of make themselves available for questions and curiosity and just to give updates. So that's why I'm here. I didn't really prepare anything official to say. It's been a challenging year for everybody. So the last couple of meetings have actually been canceled. There was no new cases and no old business. And so I'm hoping that we'll have a meeting this month. I've been the chair for quite a while now. I've lost track. But I also need to have a vote on, officers for the coming year. And actually that's past due because we've canceled the last few meetings. So I'm the chair now. I may not be in a couple of months. But do any of you have any questions?
Karen Marie, can you share, may go back a little bit here, but can you share some of the more recent projects that you have been involved in as a board? And what have you looked at?
Well, let's see. We looked at the site plan for Almond Blossom a few months ago. So speaking of that, and let me just look back at some other meeting notes going backwards from, say, August and July. The work that they're doing at the One Fed building. Let's see, the Jolly work on North Main, basically going back earlier this year, the Edward Jones moved to the new location. What else here? One Federal, again, we continued that a few times. One of the things that the board has implemented in the last few years is, rather than just being given swatches of proposed colors and materials, we want to see the actual color on the actual material. We've had too many instances where people have brought in a swatch and said, this is going to be on this material, and then when it gets on there, it looks completely different. Moon shadows being a good case in point. And so sometimes these meetings do get continued just because even though the applicants are told they're going to need to provide the actual materials with the actual color, they don't. So, and just having been burned once, we didn't want to be burned twice. So a lot of times they do get continued, but by and large, I think that people are starting to get the message that it really is a necessity for the sake of the community. And we really have, one of the things that I find is that people, you know, within the community, going back, even Champlain Housing Trust, obviously we've had a lot of input over the years in that, and the connector at the school, and even what they're trying to do with the 71 South Main Street parcel with the, you know, the other side of the school. Everybody wants to do what's best. So doing what we do is really easy. It's not difficult for the most part, because we find that people understand that the guidelines are there to help St. Albans to stay as beautiful as it is now. And so it's really become very, for lack of a better word, I'll just say harmonious and smooth for the most part. We really don't have a lot of issues with applicants. Things get worked out. We always seem to put conditions because we want to be careful about things like inappropriate colors and things like that. But all that does is make for really good clarity, and good communication is key. And I just find that makes everything work. So you very seldom see just a motion straight up or straight down. With our committee, what you'll most often see is a motion with specific sites and conditions that can be, you know, very clear, very unambiguous, and it just makes everything run smoothly.
Out of curiosity, does signage fall under your purview?
Mm-hmm. Yes. There's, go ahead, Chip, you can explain.
In certain cases, if an application needs a slightly larger sign than would otherwise be allowed under the regulations, it does go to the DAB. I would just like to add, you know, the DAB's kind of been able to take a break over the past couple of months due to a lack of applications, but there have been times when this board is juggling several projects at once, some of them very substantial. They've put in some long meetings. They've had some very detail-oriented discussions. There's a lot of good expertise on the board that they bring to the applications that come before them. We do go the extra mile whenever it's necessary, whenever we feel that it's important to help someone meet a deadline. We've called special meetings. We've
there have been times where we haven't been able to get a quorum to meet in between, but Chip is right. Our board is very strong that way, and there is great expertise on the board. We've got a couple of architects and a contractor, and I'm just trying to think if I'm missing out on someone. We could actually use one more board member right now. We sort of have one that's MIA. So if it behooves you, we could use an additional board member appointed.
Does your board have an alternate?
We do, and that would be John Morey.
Do either of you happen to have a list of the board members handy that you could share with the public and the council, just to give them
Sure.
credit?
Absolutely. I won't mention the one that's MIA because that would become rather obvious, but Evan Champagne is the vice chair, and Stephen Poston, Elizabeth Reed, and John Morey, like I said, is the alternate, and myself is the chair. So it is sometimes challenging to get a quorum.
Council, does anyone have any questions for Karen Marie or comments? Hearing none. Karen Marie, thanks for your time. Thank you for your commitment to the city and serving time on the board. We appreciate it for sure. We'll have a conversation with Chip about potentially advertising for a spot if need be, and we'll go from there. But thank you for sharing your comments, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you,
Karen Marie.
Have a nice evening.
Have a good evening.
So,
Chip, I think we're back to you on number 7 regarding the first reading of proposed amendment to land development regulations.
Thank you very much. The Planning Commission has been working for several months on a, I kind of call it a program. It would be part of our regulations if it were adopted, but it would be a thing of its own. It's a special set of bonuses and waivers that would be granted to a project that would renovate a blighted home in the city. And this amendment defines blighted as a home that's vacant, not being inhabited, and the reason why is because there are major safety issues that require significant renovations to the structure. The reason why this idea came up is because we had heard of some blighted homes that are on the market in foreclosure. Not many, but they are significant in the neighborhoods in which they're located. And Dave Southwick at City Hall and others, Dom and Marty, would hear from people who are interested in buying that home and fixing it up. But they'd sometimes run into an issue where under the current regulations, the number of dwelling units allowed in that structure weren't quite enough for developers to put together a pro forma to fix up the place based on the cash flow that they could project. In many cases, these homes at one point were grandfathered with more units than would otherwise be allowed by the land use regs, and then they become empty. After they're empty and discontinued for a year, they lose their grandfathered status, and they're sort of back to square one when someone walks up and says, what can I put in this building? So in the interest of realizing the public good of having some, more easily seeing blighted homes being renovated, the idea came up about what would we design? What sort of questions, what sort of issues would we have to deal with for us to feel comfortable to allow someone to put in extra dwelling units in one of these homes to create a stronger cash flow, and then to make it easier for someone to say that they could buy the structure, fix it, and then have it being lived in again. So the proposed amendments create section 418, a new section in the land use development regulations. And they basically explicitly say that they would allow for anything that's a blighted home, it would allow anything that is only limited to be a single family home to be able to be a duplex. And then for anything else to get a 50% increase on the number of dwelling units that you'd otherwise be able to build in that structure. There's some other waivers granted about allowing the DRB to be a little more nimble about how much parking to require or to not require on the site, depending on the size of the site. The process that it sets up would be that first the applicant brings all of their financial information, their plans for what they'd like to do to the building and what needs to be done to the building, and some information about perhaps past projects that they've worked on that demonstrate their success. And if they've owned other, if they want to do a rental property and they own other rental properties, they bring in records about how well they've been managing those properties or if there are a history of issues. And they would first come to be reviewed by the city manager or the city manager's designee. This is a little different. There are existing sections of our regulations where the city can step in a special function. The demolition of historic buildings is one example. But in this case, it recognizes the fact that the city's been pretty successful at vetting redevelopment projects and understanding what's necessary for something to be successful. So basically, the city would look at the finances and the feasibility of the project and provide an advisory recommendation that then gets sort of included with the application. The recommendation could be favorable, it could be negative, it could be conditional. The city can't stop it, but it is a process by which there's a special city review so that the DRB can then have that in hand when the DRB is eventually looking at this special application. And then the next thing is that, I think sort of as a payback for having a rule allow you to do more than others would be able to do because it's a blighted home, we added on the obligation that you need to go through design review as part of this. So no matter where this property is located, it would have to go before the design advisory board so that the DAB can look at what you're planning on doing to the building. Some of the things we'd be looking at is making sure that durable materials are used when the building's fixed up, that anything that exists that's architecturally unique and contributing about the building isn't being proposed for removal as it's being renovated, and that we're a little more careful and a little bit more deliberate about things like some of the code updates you need to add to buildings, the refuge balconies on upper floors, the access to upper floors that you sometimes see have to get built onto buildings. It would say, yeah, you can do those things, but they have to be enclosed. There has to be a little bit more to them. They have to match the building in color. So, it's also a way of looking at it is that another trade-off that you get for allowing this applicant to build more in this building is that they do have to make sure it looks really nice and it really contributes to the neighborhood when it's done, and that it's quality work. So just like with the city review, the DAB recommendation could be favorable, it could be unfavorable, it could be conditional, but it has to go through the process. The DAB gets to look at it, and then that's another thing that the development review board gets to have in hand when it comes to them. And then the final step in the process is that the application comes to the development review board. It'd be treated like a conditional use. And if any enlargements or additions or any major changes to the property are also proposed, it would also be a site plan, just like it would be a site plan for any other development like that. And so the DRB would look at everything pulled together. The applicant's saying, yep, I need a bonus of this many dwelling units to make it work. Here's my estimate for how much it would cost to do the job to the building. Here are my projections on what my cash flow would be like with extra dwelling units versus if I could only build the dwelling units that the regulations would allow me to build. And this is why it all makes financial sense. You've got the city's review, And the city's recommendations in terms of the feasibility of the project and, you know, what we've learned about the applicant and their ability to do this kind of work and manage this type of property. You'd have the information coming in from the design advisory board about this is what they plan to do to the building, and this is how we feel about what the building would look like and the quality of work being done. And then the development review board would, you know, it would be a hearing, and they would have to decide whether or not they agree with the applicant about the bonus being requested and whether it's necessary. There can be a conversation between the applicant and the development review board about how much parking they think would be necessary to not overload the on-street parking in that neighborhood, but also take into account the capacity of the piece of land that's in question. And then, you know, the DRB can make the call on if what's being applied for could receive the bonuses and waivers under this new section of the regulations. There are a couple tweaks, or there are a couple sophisticated pieces of this. And one is that if it can be proven that you've allowed a piece of property to basically fall apart so that you can then turn around and say you want to build more dwelling units than you had before, you would not be eligible for this program. So you can't game the system and allow a property to fall apart or become blighted, or work with someone to allow a property to become blighted to then just turn around and say, hey, I'd like to build more dwelling units at this place if I can fix it up. And then we also acknowledge that if ever some of the bonuses and waivers you got as part of being part of this special program, if the city ever rewrites the rules so that any property could have this many dwelling units today, then some of the special, you know, design review obligations that come with the property, they could be annulled by the DRB, because you wouldn't want one property that has 5 units having extra design review obligations tied to it when the neighbor of the same size can now build 5 units too. You've got a regulatory disparity there. So we really spent a lot of time thinking through how the thing works, what would happen if the rules change after the bonuses are given, making sure that people can't abuse the system to get the bonus dwelling units out of the program. And that's the amendment that's being proposed.
Thanks for that overview, Chip. Appreciate it. I may have missed it. Did you touch on historic preservation at all?
The Planning Commission did think about historic preservation. It's likely that any building that comes through this program would be historically contributing in some way. And so the design review section does talk about making sure that as the building's fixed up, and you know, it doesn't become a full-on restoration job. It's not forcing the applicant to restore a building to the way it looks in our, you know, the records we have in the state register about how the house might have once looked. But it does say if there's anything that remains that's architecturally contributing as part of this building, you have to preserve it. You have to stabilize it as part of your project. You can't remove a bunch of things from the building to make it look even less unique as part of the project. The Planning Commission had a long discussion about whether or not vinyl siding can be allowed. And they eventually agreed that because of costs and because of the types of buildings that are becoming historic now, and actually that vinyl siding is now recognized as a, I wouldn't call it historic, but it is now recognized in historic preservation as a material that represents a certain time era, and it can be allowed for those certain buildings. The Planning Commission is a little more lenient with vinyl siding in this program than the design review program is for a building that's located in the downtown. So it's not a full-on historic preservation program, but it tries to make sure that when the building's fixed up, we don't remove some of the architectural uniqueness of that building.
From a selfish point of view, how about aluminum siding?
I believe metal is in there too. It does say that it has to be there's a lot of attention paid to the quality of the products being used. I mean, but there are various different kinds of vinyl siding and various different ways of attaching it, and some are better than others. And this program favors the more durable and more quality applications of those materials.
Open it up for comments from the council. Comments or questions for Chip?
Chip, are there examples of other municipalities that have used this, especially in Vermont or something like it? I know you were really involved in many of the folks on the planning commission were around some of these housing density discussions. And I'm just wondering how this sort of fits into the conversations and what the experience has been of other places that have taken a similar approach.
I haven't been able to find an example like this in Vermont, and maybe I missed someone obvious. Maybe I missed a neighbor who does this, but you'll often find a dwelling unit bonus program for projects that are building affordable housing. But I have yet to see a program that allows you to do it because of the financial feasibility of fixing up a blighted home. It might exist elsewhere in the country, but we sort of just approached it as, from this, what solution would work for the city. And so that's one of the reasons why it took a lot of time to get this through the planning commission. 5 months. Oftentimes the planning commission has one meeting to draft an amendment and then another meeting for their official hearing, and then they move it on to the city council. But this got 4 or 5 months worth of meetings to really work through the details and deal with a lot of concerns.
Council?
I'll make a couple of comments. I appreciate the amount of time that the planning commission took to put this proposal together. And while I'm in favor of something like this, I don't think I would be in favor of this the way it's presented today, for a number of reasons. One is, I think this type of proposal is a call to developers to come in and see what's the best they can get out of a property and how much can they put in it. I'll give you some examples. The Fitzgerald House, the Stranahan Building, the northeast corner of Farrar and Messenger, all corners of Congress and High Street, the northwest and northeast corners of Brainerd and Messenger, 99 High Street, and I don't know the number, the street number, but at least 2 dwellings on Rubley Street. And it's fine when they first come in and everyone wants to fix it up. It's what happens after, and what we've done and what we've destroyed in granting the approval that you're requesting today, or you're having us look at today. I recall several years ago in the days when Peter Ford was on the planning commission, one of the things that we had brought up was how do we propose rules and regulations or how do we propose new rules and regulations to prevent people from taking the older architecturally strong buildings in St. Albans and splitting them up in the way that we did with the Fitzgerald House and the Stranahan Building. And I guess I take it that sense is now leaving the planning commission's thinking, but I can bet you it certainly isn't leaving the neighbors who surround a lot of these buildings. And I think this is going to have to take a lot more vetting than what you've presented here tonight. But when I first looked at it the other day, I said, well, is there anything that could happen in this regulation, the way it sits today, that would make me want to say, I would really want to give it a good shot? And the only thing I could think of would be a requirement of having any one of these blighted buildings who get the approval that you're presenting in this proposal, a requirement that it be owner occupied. That an owner has to be present and occupying that building and not an absentee owner. Because as we know, a significant number of the blighted properties are a result of non-resident owners. And that's one of the major problems that we have in the city of St. Albans. And I think this is a kind of a Band-Aid solution for the blighted properties rather than a fix of the blighted properties, because a blighted property becomes blighted because people just don't care about fixing up a property that doesn't belong to them. If you have an owner occupied property where that person takes some pride in what they're living in, maybe that's a resolution to what you're trying to achieve here today. But I can tell you right now that there would be no way, the way this is presented today, that I would ever say or put my approval on it, or for Ward 1. And I would probably actively go out to get people to at least offer some suggestions to improve or make it so that these blighted properties don't become a Band-Aid fix for a second blighted property in the city of St. Albans. We have zoning regulations and planning rules designed for a particular purpose. And if you take a blighted property in a low density residential area and you want to make it 4 or 5 apartments, that takes away from what the rules and regulations have. So for me, I'm not, I mean, I'm a little, I may be a little biased. I live in what was a duplex and made it into a single family. I know some other people that have done the same thing. I've heard some excellent comments and suggestions today about 99 High Street that are very positive in nature. And I think this flies in the face of that. That's just what I have to say for now. But I certainly stay open to any other suggestions or a rewrite of this. Like I said, I'm very thankful for the amount of time and effort that the commission put into trying to resolve the problem of blighted buildings in St. Albans City. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tim. Other council members?
I'm just going to second Tim. I'm just afraid this is going to, as written, it's going to undo a lot of the things that we've worked to try to incorporate. So, you know, after a property's been vacant for a year, goes back to being a single family. Some of the stuff that we've put forth, I think this is going to undo some of that. So that's just my concern. But you know, as Tim said, I think there might be ways where we can compromise and come to a good solution. I don't want something to just sit there for years and years and end up what we have on Diamond Street either. So it's got to be something that we can do to alleviate some of that.
Thanks, Chad. Kate or Marie, any comments?
Tim, if I can add just one other thing. One of the things we are doing is the residential facade. That's one of the tools we now have in our arsenal to help blighted properties. So that's, you know, I'm just saying that is a tool that we have, and it's one of the things we're doing to help this problem.
Thank you.
This always becomes a concern of mine when a property comes up and comes up for sale, and it's been a rental. I mean, I have one right here in the neighborhood that's been a rental and owner occupied, and now I believe it's been sold. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if the person that's purchased it is looking to move into it, but I've certainly seen enough places right here in my own neighborhood that just that has happened. They come up for, they come up vacant, and then somebody buys it as an income property and don't live there. And it's just a free for all what ends up happening to that property. So that is a huge concern of mine. So yeah, I think, we have to be careful and make sure that things like that don't happen. So I agree with Tim on that front. That isn't anything that I would want to support either. Well, that's all I have to say.
Kate, Mike, or Jim?
I kind of share Tim's concerns right now. I think there's got to be a way we can take care of this without the like Chad said, giving up a lot of the things that we worked hard to develop over the years. So I also have some concerns. I know we need to resolve this issue with developers or with owners that need to fix these homes, but I almost think we're going too far with this blighted home ordinance. I think we're giving too much leeway to developers, and I think if the parking's substandard, well, maybe we can exempt that. I just don't see this as a workable solution in some of our neighborhoods.
Mike or Kate?
If we were to, acknowledge that there are some things here that the council has concerns with, but sort of keep the conversation alive, there's no urgency for us to take any action this evening, right?
That's what I understand.
It would be good to have some direction on if the council thinks it's dead or if it wants to continue working on it. This program does contain substantially more requirements associated with it than any of the properties that the council members have voiced concerns with so far tonight. With the amount of vetting and design review and level of maintenance that the owner of the property would be obligated to maintain after, as part of their allowance. The program is designed that you'd have to want to maintain a building pretty well in order to get into the program. But we can look at ways to make that more apparent, more obvious, and perhaps even stronger. But this contains design review requirements that aren't required of any other neighborhood housing permit in the city under the regular regulations, for instance.
Chip, can I give you an example?
Mm-hmm.
Several years ago, there was a building that they wanted to tear down and construct on the corner of Weldon and Barlow Street. And we looked at that, and I think I was the chair of the DRB. Meg Manahan might have been assistant chair back then. And anyway, the plan that was presented to us was a good plan, and it looked to be a good fit. And what ended up being there was what's there now. And if people haven't gone up there to see what that's like, I'm sure everyone knows it. It's the one where the driveway is right in the middle of there's no way you could park a car in the driveway without it being on the sidewalk. And now, if you were to go up there today, the driveway is now parallel with the house in front of the building. And
I saw that today, Tim.
If I could take any decision that I ever did on any board that I was ever a part of, that would be one I wish I could take back, because we didn't look at that close enough. And what happens is when these types of proposals come forth and everyone has a very good intent to do something, it rarely works out if there is not a owner that's going to be there to be accountable. There's a lot of good things in this thing, no doubt in my mind. I read this thing and there's a lot of good things in it. But to hold someone accountable for it is what the problem is going to be. And I can see it. I thought I could do this, but I guess I can't. Can I get another waiver, or can this happen? And we're already going against the streamline of what's allowed in the district. And I just think that this is it's where we could be going down the wrong road, or we could take this thing and improve it over time with some suggestions that you made, Chip, and make something good of it. But I just think right now, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. So I don't want you to get the feeling that I want to shoot this thing down, because I really don't. I'll do whatever I could do to fix blighted properties in the city. And I'll be a part of any committee or do anything I can, because I'm involved in this quite a bit, to make this so that it works. And I really don't want you to be down on yourself or any of the people on the planning commission to be down on it, because there are some very good things here. But I just think the way it sits now, it's just hard. It's hard.
Anyone else have comments? Chip, can I just ask for, early on in this conversation, and I get a lot of our homes are historic, but I was thinking that, and I think obviously this came to light with the 99 High. I think part of the conversation was, if there's a historic building like that, or maybe 10 years ago when Owl's Club may not have been as bad, that we were looking at something that would could be utilized to salvage a historic building. And I thought this was going to be a little more selective in that discussion, as not a sort of open to all buildings, but it had to fit some guidelines relative to historic preservation and whatnot. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, the prevalence of historic homes in the city is so large that the Planning Commission felt that nearly every house has some sort of historical quality to it at this point, based on when the housing stock was built in the city. So they wanted to, because one of the discussions we had was that a blighted home in a neighborhood, a blighted home is a horrible effect on its neighborhood, no matter whether or not it's a historic building. So they figured we would do the most public good to open it up to all buildings that fit that definition of blighted home. And there aren't many of them right now. There are actually really only two that are truly empty and blighted due to safety orders. But with the fact that we watch rental properties more closely than we watch single family homes, for instance, and sometimes we can find out that a single family home is actually unsafe and suddenly it's vacant, you know, it is likely that we're gonna have another blighted building to deal with in the near future. And so the program was less about using historic preservation as a trigger and focused on the fact that it's a blighted building in a neighborhood. And one of the most effective ways to deal with that is to allow the private market to to be part of the solution. And then to just make sure the program was constructed so that if it was a historic home that was the subject of the application, that any of the remaining historic aspects of it would be preserved. And if the applicant wanted to restore more of what had been historically, architecturally contributing about the building, then that would be major points in their favor as they go through the process.
Thank you. One last call from the council, and then I'll see if anyone in the public has any comments. Hearing none from the council. Let me know if we see anyone's hands up.
Tim, can I say one more thing?
Sure, Tim.
There's a reason why when you rent a property in St. Albans City, you have to have a public building or a public safety inspection by the fire marshal. There's a reason why when you have a rental property in St. Albans City that you have to have a master electrician and a master plumber make repairs. And there are reasons why if you own it as your property, you don't have to have that stuff. So I'll keep that in mind.
What is the, what's the council's liking? How would you like to move forward?
Mayor,
Go ahead, Dom.
can we just let this lie a bit and let staff noodle on it and do some research and take it up if we have some better ideas? Circle back to you.
I have no objection to that. Anyone on the council object to that?
Do you need a motion in order to table it, or can we just not take action?
Mayor might say something like, unless there's objection, we'll let this lie.
Unless there's an objection, we'll let this lie. How's that, Dom?
That sounds pretty good.
Are there any objections to that?
Nope.
Okay, we'll continue conversation with Chip and staff and give an update in January. Everyone
Works for me.
Everyone good with that? Good, Jim?
That's good. Yeah.
Okay, and no comments from the public. So with that, we'll move on to item number 8. Chip, since we have you, can you just, I know you shared a narrative on the downtown dollars, but I would like to, well, let me back up. Thank you for all your time on the proposed amendments. And I'd also thank you for all your time on the downtown dollar cards that you have been selling and you and Marty have been redeeming. So why don't you take a few moments and talk about that program?
Yeah, the you know, for a long time, the city and staff wanted to have a gift card or a gift certificate for downtown as part of the downtown program, and got into the weeds now and then about rechargeable gift cards and having to have a bank service a program. It could get pretty complicated. But then in March with COVID, I believe it was you, Tim, that Northwest Career and Technical Center contacted about, is there a way to give a downtown gift certificate to students and faculty as a special reward in the lead up to graduation? And so the mayor and Marty Manahan and myself quickly just created something. And we kept it really simple so that it could be quickly put out there and that it would work and not be much of an administrative hassle. And it turned out to be just something that we should have done a long time ago, quite frankly. Basically, a downtown dollars card is worth $10 cash. It's supposed to be treated like cash at a business, at a participating local business. And you pay $10 to get the $10 card. Normally, as you know, to give as a gift, like you would give someone a gift card or a gift certificate to a business as a gift. And graduation was really, I mean, other than I guess Christmas and this time of year, graduation, there's a lot of gift giving that goes on. And it turned out to be just the perfect time to get this program going, because nearly every school or groups or organizations were interested in buying these cards to give to students and to faculty and staff and other folks, non-graduation related events as well. So we basically ordered a large batch of cards and we gave them out in big batches to organizations that paid for them and then would distribute them. But we knew that we'd eventually want to be able to sell these individually too. When the state unveiled the Restart Vermont regional marketing grants, we wrote a grant application for $10,000 to match a bunch of the cards 50-50. So you would pay $5, you'd get a $10 card and you double your money. We would also use the grants to give away more Downtown Dollars cards to volunteers. We actually gave away a lot to blood donors at some of the blood drives held in the city. And downtown contests, Spooky Saturday, they've been given away as part of the rec department, the holiday decorating contest, the downtown bingo, holiday raffle, all that. And it just helps get the cards out there. So now, as part of that, we created the ability to buy a card online. So now individuals can also get a Downtown Dollars card whenever you'd like to give as a gift or for any other occasion. Just go to downtownstalalbans.com/downtowndollars. We've put $26,000 worth of Downtown Dollars cards into the field, which is significant. And they haven't all been spent yet, and some of them, might not get spent, but a good portion will. And what's great is that every time someone buys a Downtown Dollar card, that money is going to be spent somewhere at a local business. And that's what we like to see. So far, we've gotten more than $2,500 worth of Downtown Dollars cards back, and I think we're going to get a few more back. Basically, a business collects the card. They normally wait till they have 5 or even 10 or even 30 of them. Then they bring them to City Hall, and staff writes a check to the business for the value of the card. And the money, when it comes in, it goes to the St. Albans for the Future bank account, and it sits there. And then it's that bank account from which we write the checks to the businesses when the cards are redeemed. So I think it's been a really successful program. I think it's permanent, and it seems to be pretty popular both with the customers and with the businesses. So I think a lot of people are really pleased with it. It's just another thing that COVID has taught us that we probably should have had all along. And now we do.
How many businesses are participating, Chip?
Oh, that's a shoot. I knew you'd ask that, or I should have known you'd ask that. I think we have at least 30. And quite frankly, if you bring that card to a business and they're not on our list, but they'll take the card, then we're like, fine, that's okay. It's probably a local business, more so the better. But what we have on the website are the businesses that specifically told us that they would take the card.
And it's retail and restaurants. It's everything.
Retail, restaurants, services, the hotel takes them, the Back in Time takes them, the museum takes them, and many of the vendors at the farmers market also said that they would take them.
Great. I had 2 conversations over last week, one with Jess at As the Crow Flies. She has cashed in just recently $300 worth and sitting on another 300. So she was very happy with the program. She also said that her shop small day was her 3rd best out of 8 years, I believe. And in talking with Sharon at Bayberry Cottage, Sharon has said that this is one of her best holiday seasons that she has had. So I think that's a combination of not only these cards, but also the shop local movement and initiative. So it's good to hear that some of the downtown businesses are doing well. Does anyone have any comments for Chip? Questions?
I got 2 quick questions. Chip, how long are these good for? Because we plan on giving them as stocking stuffers. and kind of wondering how long, if they're able to use them next summer if they want. And then the second thing, it may not seem like a whole lot, but are they reloadable, or do we just toss them in the trash when we're done? It just seems like it's a waste. We just toss them.
Oh, the city, well, we're actually going to toss some in the trash, Chad, because the first batch of cards did not have an expiration date. And I'm having nightmares of, like, you know, whoever succeeds me and Marty 20 years from now, sitting in the office, and suddenly someone turns in 100 of these cards and says, I want the city to write me a check for $1,000. And we're like, what the heck? We don't even know this existed. So the first batch of cards did go out without an expiration date. As those come back in, we are cutting those. The new batch, the second batch, does have an expiration date, but it's way out there because by Vermont law, you can't have a gift card expire sooner than 5 years. And I added 2 years to that so that we could get at least 2 years out of these cards. So the new batch of cards expires on December 31st, 2027. So we'll keep recycling those cards until they start to fade and you can't read them anymore, I guess, or they get really dirty. Then we'll get rid of them, but otherwise we will recycle them.
So you and Marty will still be there in 2027 when someone comes in and puts these cards in, right?
I hope so. I would hope so.
I thought you'd be here 20 years from now. Come on.
Well, I'm pretty sure my card doesn't have an expiration date on it, so I might test one of those to see how long it'll be good.
Put it yeah, give it to your grandkids and say, here, go to City Hall and see what they say.
But by then it'll be worth pennies on what I paid for it.
Yeah, right.
You know, that old guy at City Hall with a long gray beard by the name of Chip Sawyer, go see him.
I think the other piece of this, which I think we can pretty much guarantee folks that not all of these will be expired, but you do have to be prepared, or not all of these will be used. And if they're not used, the money goes to the downtown St. Albans for the Future. So there will be a little bit of an aspect of fundraising, although you do have to be prepared to cover a portion of those moving forward. But I would expect that a number of those will not be cashed in, and it will be funds to be used for promoting the downtown. Any other questions for Chip?
No.
Thank you, Chip. Appreciate it. Good work. We'll move on to item number 9, which is an update on a proposal for the community pool at Hardhack. And with us, we have Dominic and Rec Director Kelly Deans. And I'll turn it over to you two, Dom and Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a memo and some visuals in your packet, but in the interest of starting the discussion for folks who are signing on, I'll just walk you through it.
Before you do that, could you tell us what time we were scheduled for that presentation on the agenda?
I'd like to reflect the fact that you've nailed it dead on, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I do have to object for the rigmarole you put Chip through just so you could not get there early, though.
No, we were all in cahoots on that.
So in addition to Kelly and myself, we've also got our project team here tonight, our Lance Gangus, the architect, and Peter Cross, the engineer. So direct any of the really hard questions to them. But as you'll recall, the council goals and objectives established the preparation of a revised pool proposal as a top priority. And to this end, we worked with our team to prepare a new proposal for voter consideration in March. And that's the question before the council tonight is, should we keep going on this proposal? We reevaluated multiple locations for a new community pool, all the sites we previously looked at, and we added a new site off of Cedar Street. But once again, the Hardhack Recreation Area rose to the top as the location that's broadly speaking, the most feasible. It's the most cost effective. We own the land. It has the least uncertainty. It's the by far the straightest distance between 2 points for the pool and the project as currently envisioned. It also offers the most synergy with other recreational uses with the completion of the Greg Brown Lodge and the relocation of the rec offices to Hardhack. One of the principles of recreational planning is you want to cluster your recreational features. You don't want to spread them out. That makes them easier to manage. And for the same reason that you have an anchor tenant in a retail mall, in this case, the anchor tenant is your large feature like the pool. Council will recall that voters approved the previous pool at Hardhack by a 2-to-1 margin in March, but the proposal did not pass in the town. And so this new proposal is intended to be bonded entirely by the city. The debts in this proposal would be serviced by the local option tax, just like the previous proposal, and by user fees from participants from other communities. This is not intended to be funded with property taxes. I'm going to venture into new Zoom territory here and seek to share my screen so you can see a bit of the proposal. Can you see that on the screen?
We can see your email with the attachment. Email to Kristen.
You're not seeing the rendering itself, though?
No.
I think you've got to open that rendering up, Dom.
That's open on mine.
Oh.
This is Eric. From a technical perspective, you may have shared just a window.
There it is.
Now I see it.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yep. I helped you through that, Dom.
Appreciate that.
So this, I think you're on a raise, Mr. Mayor.
He's pretty quick to take credit, I'll tell you that.
Isn't he? Yeah, yeah.
I didn't think anyone would notice, Chad.
I'm willing to double his salary.
Just about to hit the Mayday button. So the new proposal, as you'll see in this rendering, keeps all of the pool features itself, but builds a seasonal pool that could be expanded to a year-round pool in future years. So phase one would be a seasonal facility with subsequent phases adding the year-round ability. It will be heated, so users can swim in the spring and early fall, but we've eliminated the dome as a cost-saving measure, and we've eliminated the insulation and other items in the building. I've analogized it to building the camp that you hope to someday winterize, and building it so that the walls can take insulation and you can have the heat that you need, but not putting them in until you need it. So we've added all the infrastructure so that we can add the dome and insulate the building at a later date. The building also makes greater use of outdoor space and is built to be seasonal. And you see some of that. In the center space in between, we've opened that all up. We learned a lot this past year in COVID about how to be outside in seasonal spaces like this. And so Laz can provide some of the detail on it. But essentially this is an open space with the vegetation providing some of the shade, but recognizing that we're not out at the pool when you've got inclement weather. We close the pool when that happens. We've also changed the site plan to keep, made a number of changes in the site plan to reduce cost. We've kept the access road in its current location. The previous proposal called for moving the access road. We also, though, have not removed the new sidewalk on Congress Street and the rec path from Congress Street to the pool. Right now, those survive within the proposal. And we continue to include the commitment to provide the Aqua van to offer free transportation to the pool with pickup throughout locations throughout the city and a bike rack. The vision being that some folks might want to ride the bike home or ride the bike there and catch a ride home. I'll try to get my screen big again here so I can see you all. Well, one of the conversations that always comes up, and I'm hoping we can talk about it tonight, is preserving resources in the neighborhood that the current pool is located in. And I'm hoping we can drill down into that conversation a little bit. Just like last time, access is and removing barriers is a different question than site design. And if you draw the lens back a little bit and said, where should this recreational facility be? The 100-acre parcel that we own for purposes of developing recreation is, it just emerges at the top of the list. But we remain committed to addressing the impact in that neighborhood of not having that resource there. And what we're proposing, the pool budget, the engineers, the construction manager's estimate is $3.7 million. And what we're proposing is we earmark an additional $250,000 for enhancements to Houghton Park as part of the project. And Kelly and I initially have talked about ideas such as the construction of a splash pad or a similar water feature, enhancing the building that's down there so that the bathrooms are more attractive. There could be a snack bar. It would be a free lunch site, just like the pool is. But Houghton Park becomes much more of a node of activity. And one of the ways we would encourage that is providing recreation program staff at the park to provide supervision and also some additional entertainment. One of the points that when I talked with Chad about it, he said, you know, there might be people in the neighborhood comfortable with their kids going down to Houghton that wouldn't want them to go all the way to Hardack. And so we were trying to respond to that framing. But the total estimates then for both combined comes in just under $4 million. And so the annual debt service over the 25 years is $235,000. This would be reduced by any funds we were able to raise and any dues that we're able to target towards it from surrounding communities. And the balance would be serviced by the local option tax, just like the original pool proposal. So we've tried to strike a win-win that here with this proposal that takes advantage of what seems to be just a great site and also provides some resources for the neighborhood where the pool is currently located. And the question before the council is to authorize staff to continue with the planning and design work necessary to prepare an article for voter consideration in March. I know there's probably some council questions, but in terms of teeing it up, Kelly, would you like to, anything you'd like to add to frame it a bit?
Sure. You know, as you said, we visited, we've considered other sites and visited a new site. Hardack does come to the top each time as the right place to put a new pool. The space, the parking, not being hemmed in, and clustering staff with the office at Hardack allows for an entire day We're getting every year, our job becomes, it's recreation, but it's a lot of childcare. And this allows us to have programming that, a kid can come up, not day camp. I mean, day camp would be there, but a kid could go there and be at Hardack pretty much the whole day. Whereas we can't offer that kind of thing at the pool now. There are very specific time slots when kids are there for what they're there. Swim team, you go for swim team and you leave. You come for swim lessons and you leave. Hardack with the trails, the fields, the disc golf, and additional staff availability will let us offer a lot more programming. It'll also spread over the course of the day, allow us that, which we don't have in some of the smaller sites.
Yeah. Before we turn to council questions, Peter, Laz, anything that we glossed over from your perspective?
I think you covered it pretty well, Dom.
Okay. We do have Peter's site plan that we can put on the screen if we have questions in that regard.
Peter and Dom, let's hypothetically, let's think that this gets approved in March. Can we have a timeline on construction and opening and what would happen to the old pool?
Well, we still got funds in the project to demo the old pool. So assuming that we can open the new pool, the existing pool in FY21 with a successful bond vote, we would probably follow the same schedule we had last year, which was try to get a start as soon as we can in the construction season. And they're thinking it's a 5-month deal, as I recall, construction timeline, and that 21 would be the last season at the current pool and 22 would be in the new pool.
And to date, we're only in our first quarter of local option tax, so we don't have any indication yet as to what income that will generate, correct?
We don't yet. We've had some conversations with the economist who did the projections, and we can draw some inferences from the performance at the state level. And at the state level, which ours rides along with, this tax is overperforming their projections because everybody's, a lot of it's the internet sale. Everybody's at home buying new furniture and new sweatpants for the work. So.
Okay, let's open it up for questions from the council or comments.
I have two. Can you hear me, Tim?
We can, Tim.
First, thanks for the memorandum, reciting the memorandum, Dom, down at the bottom of page 1, where it was staff are proposing that we reserve 250,000.
Yeah.
I had misread that. When I initially looked at it, I thought it had said Chad is proposing that we also reserve 250,000 for me. The other thing that I wanted to ask was, what was the cost of the dome?
400,000. Peter, is that right? Isn't it 400 or so?
Yeah, it was 400. And then I believe the foundation for the dome is still in the project, so we can add it later. And that's not part of the 400.
Okay. And at the time when we had approved this as a joint proposal with the city and the town, we had a projection of the local option tax at that point in time. And did I just hear you say that the local option tax is exceeding expectations based on that projection or on some new projection because of the COVID stuff?
Well, kind of both. They haven't updated our projection. So there's two things here. Our projection came in at 675, but it didn't include the hotel And there was something else that another major user that wasn't included. So there's upward, that 675 was acknowledged to be light. And then the, Mike, what's the name of the state tax that this rides along with?
Yeah, it's the sales and use.
Sales and use, yes, thank you. So the sales and use tax has just been going gangbusters.
So we're in no worse position today with a local option tax than we would have been back then, right?
All indications are we're in a substantially better position on the local option tax.
Okay. And the only reason we're putting this in front of the voters again is because we're doing this on our own rather than with the town.
Yeah, it's really a different project than what was sold to the voters. I asked that question, but the numbers are different.
You know what I'm driving at, right? You knew what I was driving.
Yeah. But I think we need to re-ask it.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, so the biggest difference to that point, if I can dovetail, is that we're asking for 4 million and not 2.5, right? I mean, that's the fundamental difference.
Well, we're asking for more money for a different project.
Right. But just conceptually, if I'm understanding it, we're looking at 4 million. We get the things in Houghton Park. We don't get the dome in this proposal. I guess, what Tim's question makes me wonder is, does it really make sense to wait on the dome if what we heard was, are there, I guess what I'm saying is there anything to be saved in the long run? If we know we're going to want the dome, is there anything to be saved in doing it all at once? Especially if we are seeing the local option tax perform the way we are. I guess our voters approved the local option tax in large part, I think, because of this particular investment in a pool, and it's largely the same project. But yeah, I guess the point of my question is whether we would save anything if we went ahead and bonded for the additional 400,000 to do the dome now.
Mike, this is Tim. I agree with you. I thought that's where Tim Hawkins was headed. For 400,000 and you expand your use 8 or 9 months out of the year. Not that I want to minimize 400,000, but I think it's minor in the whole scheme of things if it opens that up for full-time, for year-round use. So I guess
it's more than 400. That's just the dome.
Right. I know you have some insulation and some takedown costs, right? I think those were estimated about 10,000 per year, was it?
Yeah, but it's, Laz, you can speak to this. We cut the heck out of the building.
Yeah. So, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've taken the heat out of the building. We've taken the insulation out of the building. We've taken a bunch of stuff out of the building to lower the cost to make it a little more reasonable. So while it's 400,000 for the dome, there's going to be added costs if we have to put heat back in, if we have to insulate the building, and there'll be some code issues that we have to do if we connect the building to the pool like we had previously proposed. So there will be some added costs, and it won't be just 10,000 or so. It's just what we tried to do is, since we weren't going to do the dome, is do it as seasonable as possible to help reduce costs, with the ability to add stuff later on should you guys decide to do the dome.
Go ahead, Jim.
So we were talking 400,000 for the dome. I mean, to put these improvements back in the building, what are we talking about? Another 100,000, 500,000 total?
I couldn't tell you right now.
The original proposal was 5.5. You put these back in, we're probably, my instinct is we're probably only going to be able to get this thing down to high 4s or 5. And, we've got this question, and we've also got a water tank that we need to put before the voters in a Kingman streetscape, and plus the city budget. And I just felt like in the middle of the pandemic, with all that is going on in the world, we needed to show some recognition. I'm
No, Don, let me just interrupt. Obviously, what last share brings new light to it. I think that's a point that we would really have to emphasize in the conversation, because I got to believe there's a good chunk of the population that will be thinking the same as Mike and I, that if it's only 400,000, why not move forward with it? So we will, moving forward, we'll have to make sure that discussion is clear as to why it isn't just 400,000.
I mean, look, I don't, and keep talking about it. I don't mean to steer it. I just wanted to let you know what our thinking was, so the conversation really ought to be 4 million versus 5 million.
So let me ask a question to build on this. So one of the things that we were really sold on with the original proposal was that the year-round use would actually create a virtuous cycle where the additional programming and the availability of the resource would help pay for the operating costs. So I'm wondering if you look at it not just in terms of what's the impact on the local option tax revenue and the size of and scope of the project in the year where we do the build, but also in the out years when we're operating it, are we essentially cutting ourselves off from all of that activity and the potential revenue that comes with it to support the facility if we keep it seasonal?
Potentially, I guess it's sort of an incremental approach, right? And these are really different times. And yeah, jump in, Kelly.
Sorry. And also the pool will be heated. So even though there isn't a dome, we're buying probably 6 weeks extra in the spring, 6 weeks, it just depends on weather, but extra in the fall. We know that the schools BFA has always been there in the fall, but we know that other schools have, especially this year, we had to turn them away because with COVID, we didn't, we couldn't spread the kids out like we needed to. So we couldn't include other schools who are now very interested in doing PE classes. So it's not year round, without the bubble, but it does add to the season.
I'm just seeing people say, why should we pony up $4 million? I know it's not general fund, but still, why should we pony up $4 million for another seasonal pool when we have one? Put the money into fixing that one. I think the advantage that we had on that was the dome, was making it a year-round pool.
That was I was going to say the same thing, Jim. I was going to say the same thing. And I'm wondering, do we lose some support if we don't have the dome? Because people are going to say, well, why don't we just build on what we have then if we're not going to have the dome? The dome was what made this project. So
I agree.
One factor too is that rebuilding, repairing. Quite honestly, the last 3 years when I've gone down there in the spring, it's with fingers crossed. We just don't know. We don't know if we're opening for this 2021. It depends what happens over the winter, and the walls are constantly, they're crumbling in, and we've done lots of good work to repair them, but we're getting way past repair, and it would be a replacement. And if that's the choice, we would lose a year. We would have a year without a pool for sure, because we can't demo and replace without losing a year.
You're right, Kelly, but I think that's what they're going to say. Replace where it is now. Why pony up for a new one up at Hart? I mean, I think they're thinking they're going to save money by staying where we are.
We still gain a lot by moving the pool. So you gain zero entry, which we don't have with the current pool, which limits access to people that have, that have accessibility issues. So we're gonna gain that. We're also gonna be able to use a pool when it's being used for swim meets or something else, or when they're practicing, or when there's swim lessons going on. We'll have access to the pool. We don't have that right now. So we do gain some of those. And then I do have a couple questions, Don, but did you want to say something?
I'm going to round it out a little bit. I think perhaps a better lens to look through is the debt service on what we've proposed is 235. The debt service on 5 million is 300. So there's some additional operating costs as well, but there's also a lot of additional operating revenue. And to the extent that there's an emerging sentiment that we should try to stick closer to what we originally had, that's something to maybe consider directing staff to do, is to consider trying to get a proposal that's under 5, but is year round.
I'd like to see those numbers. I mean, we may end up doing what you're proposing, but I'd like to see the numbers with the dome.
Council, any other comments? Checking in with Marie and Kate.
I have a couple questions too, Tim. First, I just want to say, yes, I think of the city, but I also think of my ward. So, and the equity issues that this may create from down here. So I do appreciate that Dom looked into how can we lessen the impact that the neighborhoods are going to feel down here. So I do appreciate that, Dom, and the investment in Houghton Park will go a long way towards that. So I think some of the support that we may have lost because it's not year round, we'll gain because we're making an investment down here for kiddos that may be 10 or 11 and can walk to City Pool that's here in the neighborhood, or to Houghton Park to play, but necessarily parents might not let them go up to Hardack, or they might not have a means to get there. So I do appreciate that. There's some things that we can utilize, like the gazebo that's at the pool now, that might be able to be moved down here as well. The bathroom will need substantially being updated. It's one stall now. It plugs every third flush, so you're constantly plunging it just because the grade going to the sewer line is so low. So just some heads up, some of these expenses might be larger than you think. There is a snack bar in the building already that could be utilized as well. So that's a cost savings. I'm interested in the splash pad. I love that it's going to be here. The idea is to have it in Houghton Park and not Taylor Park. Taylor Park, I think it'd have to be more granite and it would have to be more kind of fancy. Here it can be more kids oriented, more oriented towards the people that are actually going to use it. So I do appreciate that. I'm just kind of curious on some of that planning as well. So, and I do have a question for, a couple questions for Kelly, and it might be Peter as well. You talk about using Hardack more and more and more. Do we see in the future putting a playground up there, the need for a playground up there? And then the second question, probably more for Peter or Laz, is this going to impact the lacrosse fields in any way?
The playground, yes. We've looked at lots of playgrounds and different styles that would be fantastic to have at Hardack. And I think that would be a great addition. We've also received a grant towards a skate park that I think is a nice complement for at a pool. The lacrosse fields, it's actually the portion that is closer to that access road that goes out to the Grattan Fields. that we don't, it's tilted, it kind of runs down. That part will be affected, but the area of play will remain. And also, Chad, to speak to, the neighborhood and concerns, and that's a concern that I share as well. And I love Houghton Park, and there's so many good things that are, that happen at Houghton Park. I think the addition of a staff member there enhances that tremendously. It's a little bit of supervision. It's someone who will take pride in, pick up garbage that is around. It prevents bad stuff happening between kids. It prevents adults that maybe shouldn't be there or not doing the right thing there. It changes a lot. And I'm a big proponent of that. Another thing we have planned to do is have equipment there, have tennis rackets and balls, and have soccer balls, and have baseballs, and have all kinds of equipment there. So if a kid just wanders over the park but wants to do something, we can lend that equipment out, and we've got somebody there to lend it out and to get it back. I've also had some great conversations with some people at NCSS in regard to them moving, because it seems like we would be concerned about the same kids, and their decision to build on that land. And they also had concerns, and people voiced concerns, but it's been a successful move for them. And they've created the access for their clients. And it's workable to the point that they've expanded there. So it's something that given a lot of thought to.
Oh, where are you referring to that NCSS is building or built?
The Family Center, NCSS, their building is in the neighborhood of Hardack. Okay. When we talk sometimes about the distance of Hardack and that it's an obstacle.
I wasn't sure what building you were referring to.
No, just their building.
I shared this with Dom, and I'm much older than you, Kelly, but I don't know if you remember when Messenger Street or Barlow in the old days of recreation, they had, it was drop-in recreation. So you had, I remember attending as a child that you'd go over and there'd be playground supervisor or rec supervisors, and they'd organize games, kickball, if there was enough kids, arts and crafts, whatever the case might be. So I think that's an opportunity as well to not only have equipment available, but even be a little more structured and providing programming as well, possibly.
Well, interestingly enough, Mr. Mayor, that is where I met my husband. He was a park supervisor.
Well, it was nice of Tim to talk about the 1930s. I think programming will help here as well, Kelly. I think that'll make a big difference.
Yeah.
This park is really, really underutilized. For the most part, there's room for along Lower Weldon Street. There might be room for a sand volleyball court. I mean, not that I know of, we don't have a volleyball court in the city. So, it's just some of the uses of the park we can utilize the space a little better. So I would.
But parking.
Yeah, we have plenty of parking. Parking's not a problem. I think we have probably 50 or 60 spaces.
I want to move on to Kate and Marie, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Overall, I like the proposal. I do like Hardack as a spot. I think it could be a wonderful thing. One of my questions is, what does this mean for Barlow Street School?
Barlow will remain for programming. We'll still have programming there every day. We're keeping, I don't know if you've been in that little tiny third floor room. We're keeping as a kind of fallback office. We've got a phone there, computer, printer, that kind of thing. So we can manage the programming that's happening there. We need the space. And, if COVID taught us anything, it's like get out of each other's face. And day camp is jammed, and we have wanted to use our room that the office is in as a programming room for a long time, and we haven't been able to move. You know, we tried different spots in Barlow to put the office that the fire marshal just couldn't, we couldn't do. So this opens up more space for programming. Programming will continue as soon as we're able. We still have after school every single day. We have vacation camp for the kids during school vacations. And then we have that Wednesday remote day at Barlow. So we'll continue to use that as a programming space, and we will be on site every day at some point.
Okay, thanks. I also love the Houghton Street Park, at Houghton Park improvements. I think that that's really smart. One of my concerns is about accessibility and the impact this will have on those neighborhoods who are losing the pool to a certain extent, right? So I think that really helps. Question about the entrance. The entrance into the Hardhack Parks now, the Hardhack Fields, is pretty dangerous. And I think we're going to be creating a fair increase in traffic. I know we're not going to move where the road is, and I can understand the savings involved, but have we thought about how it could be reconfigured a little bit to be safer, or just thought about the safety issue there a little bit?
Yeah, I can address that. We do have in the plan and in the budget a reconfiguration of that entrance, tightening up of the radii on either side and making it safer. We can't pull it back from Route 104 very far, but we do have some money in the budget to improve that entrance.
Great, thank you. And then last thing, tell me more about the Aqua van. How's that going to work?
So, well, we have a van, whether we use that one or get an additional one. And I think as far as, and Dominic, as far as what the stops are, I think that's yet to be determined, but I think Houghton Park is a great place to pick up kids and drop them off. They're familiar with the area. It's semi-supervised, so you haven't got kids just, waiting around somewhere on their own. And it would bring kids back and forth throughout the day.
Weekends too, Kelly, or you think just weekdays?
I think it has to be all the time. I mean, our experience with our users, and I took COVID last year, we had to know who was coming to our pool, and we had to know who they were, for contact information on our cash sales. And we've never done that before. We always, you pay at the door and you go in, and we don't keep a record of that. And what we found out was that even with COVID and reducing our capacity to 25%, we had 420 visits for public swim last year. And of those 420 visits, 213 of them were in the city. And it was a very generous line that was drawn, but kids or families or visitors from the west end of town accounted for 123 of those visits. So when we speak of taking, when we talk about taking it away, St. Albans town, 124 of those kids came from St. Albans town, and then another 83 came from outside. So it kind of, I think our kids and our users are so much more spread out than they were, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, when our users were right around, lived right around the block at the pool. We really have a lot of people from all over.
Fair enough.
Anything else, Kate?
That's it for now.
Marie, I think you're last on the list. We've heard from everyone else, I believe.
We didn't go alphabetical this time.
No, we didn't. No, we went oldest to youngest.
Well, I've often compared this Hardhack area to I can foresee it being a similar case as what Essex has in that Maple Street Park. I think that is just an awesome facility. And I've often said, boy, I wish St. Albans had something like this. So I think Hardhack's a perfect place to have the pool and build on that, build on the feasibility of it, and connect it with all kinds of the recreational activities. Are we going to be having a public meeting on the pool proposal again, like we did the last time? Partly because I think, it's going to be really important, especially if we go with the full-blown dome plan. I think it's going to be especially important to run that by the voters again, as far as informing them on the pluses of going ahead and doing the full scoped project at this time, versus doing a little bit now and then with the possibility of adding the dome later. I think there's going to be a lot of questions with people being unemployed at this time, and doing some catch up on finances and stuff like that. So, that may all enter into it as well. So that's one concern that I have. But as far as the plan goes, I think it's a wonderful plan. I like the idea of the Houghton Park as well. Houghton Park has been a popular spot for kids for years. And I think anything we can do to that park to make it even more so is a plus. I mean, you've got the daycare right down the street on the other corner, Apple Blossom. And I know those kids probably frequent that park quite a bit. So I think that's great that we're investing in Houghton Park as well. I guess that's probably all my comments, but I would like to see us schedule a public meeting as far as informing the voters of our decision.
Thanks, Bree.
Yeah.
Tim, can I ask one more question?
Oh, who is that, Chad?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Kelly, with some of the programming leaving Barlow, is that going to open up maybe a room that the high school kids can go to after school to just hang out if there's going to be someone up there?
I don't see that necessarily. What we're our after school program right now, because of COVID and the way the kids are split up, we're not using, like, we wouldn't have the need for that third room. But when things go back to normal, we would need the space. The other thing is, with our licensing requirements, we're not allowed to have kids over the age of 12. So we can't have, while the after school program is going, because it's licensed, those are the only kids that can be in the building. The only people that can be in the building. We can't have other programming running at the same time.
Anything else, Chad? Thanks, Kelly.
Yep.
I'd like to open up to the public. Dom, if you can watch for hands, let's see if there's any comments from the public on this.
See Angie.
Angie, go ahead.
All right, I'm trying to make it work. Can you hear me or no?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, so sorry about the video. So I guess I just want to share, I am in Ward 6, the southwest side of Chad's area. Just want to say, I've lived in St. Albans all my life. I'm one of those kids that grew up at the city pool. I used it every summer when I was younger. I also want to say, currently I'm a foster mom with many kids. I have kids with special needs. The current pool is not overly accessible for me to get there with kids sometimes, depending on, what the disabilities are. So that can be very daunting. At any time in my household, there's 6 kids. And so how do you say, no, we can't go because, child 1 and 2 can't get into the pool, or it's above their head, or, it's not, realistic. So I want to say the other thing too is I'm pretty excited about the Hardhack idea. I know there's some trepidation about moving up there, but I think back to the days of playing soccer at Coot Field and skating at, Coot Field and whatnot. And then hearing, oh, they're going to make this into a building and we're all going to move up to the interstate, right? Like that was a big move when I was in school. Must have been like a freshman, I think, and I look back now and I think, wow, what a great job that was, and how much it's prospering up there next to the interstate, and how many people use that in a day, the high school, the grade schools, there's lots of activity, energy, and bodies up there all the time. So that's been successful. And as far as like kids getting to Hardack, I like the idea of the Aqua van. I think that's great. Getting Houghton Park back modernized, making it healthy will be a great thing. I mean, it's really hard for me to have my kids at city school and never hear about, oh, our field trip this year at the end of the summer is we're going to go to Houghton Park for the day. They don't even do that anymore. Houghton Park is just kind of like, I don't know, you drive by and it's definitely better in the last couple of years, don't get me wrong. But before that, it was drive by and see some metal. Like there was nothing happening there except maybe Chad on a Saturday morning blowing whistles that I can hear at my house thinking, why are they over there screaming? I want to sleep in for football. But other than that, I just want to give my, vote of confidence to Hardack for sure. And also I would think, I haven't really listened to a lot of these council meetings, I'll say, but the dome being on top of the pool was a driving factor for me when voting came around. Like, yes, that's something different. It's a local activity. It's something during COVID that my kids can do that I don't have to travel to. I don't have to spend a lot of money to. I'm one of those families in the winter, my kids want to swim. So I go and rent a hotel room so we can go swim at the pool. We never stay at the hotel, but I do that so that we can swim because it's cheaper than maybe going out of town or something like that. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Angie. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to comment?
Tim, this is Jim, just following up with Angie. I'm a lot older than you, Angie. I remember we didn't have a pool. When we wanted to swim, we had to bike down to the bay and back. So the fact that we have a pool at Hardack is not a real big thing for me. I think it's great we have a van to get people back and forth, but I really think that's a great location for the pool.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim helped build Coot Field.
Yeah, that's it. Well,
Chad is,
he went from oldest to youngest earlier, so I had to,
Chad, I'd like to think you're going to adjust your attitude by the next meeting. You're picking on a lot of the old folks. So I think we're done with this topic. Dom, it sounds like to me the council would like to see some costs relative to having the dome and what that might look like. Am I stating that clear for the council?
Let me, that's what I'm hearing as well, Mayor. Peter, those sidewalks, that sidewalk down Congress Street, are we going to have to build that for Act 250 anyway, or could we cut some cost? And is that important to the council?
Well, the sidewalk in the current plan has been shortened because we're not building the driveway. Originally, it was going to go to the driveway. Now the driveway is being eliminated. My plan was not to build the sidewalk all the way to the existing driveway. I was only going to build it to the recreation path, which would be near the Eastview easterly boundary line, near the evergreen trees. So I'm thinking that we aren't going to build the sidewalk all the way. I don't know what Act 250 will do, but I think as long as we're building pedestrian access to Hardack in some manner, I think that'll be acceptable.
Do you think we would need, I'm just wondering if we could cut that. But Act 250, are they going to want to see the reduced sidewalk?
I think they are. There's a big emphasis on pedestrian movements, and it mostly comes from the Regional Planning Commission, but it's been built into Act 250, and I don't think we'd be successful eliminating the sidewalk and recreation path completely.
Dom, I think it's important having safe access to that site.
Okay.
Yeah. So Dom, you're set?
Yep.
You will,
We'll get to work.
and you'll need some direction by our next meeting, right? Or at the conclusion of our next meeting?
Well, that's a good segue to our next topic, actually. So if we're ready to move on, we can head there.
Yep, go ahead.
So next up on the agenda is,
Dom, can I interrupt you 1 second?
Sure.
Peter and Laz, thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
You're quite welcome.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Dom, sorry.
that was well done. Next topic is an overview of the 2021 bonding questions and the budget process and timeline. So this is in your packet. So this is sort of a snapshot of where I think we see things headed. I think there's likely 4 articles for consideration. The pool vote, as we just discussed. A vote to add an additional water tank, call it the Aldous Hill location, but it's where the current tank is. That's plus or minus 3 million. And the Kingman Streetscape project, which is TIF funded. And I believe that's $1 million in TIF. And then the city budget. More on the city budget later, but that's a tough exercise because of the loss of the town police contract. I think we're going to be, we're going to be within striking distance of CPI, but it's not an easy lift to get there. Under the TIF rules, we need to notice a hearing for a potential TIF, the potential TIF vote by the end of this week, early next. So we would run a notice in the paper that we'll be conducting a public hearing on the potential TIF vote. And we would notice that for our regular council meeting on January 11th. The week before that, on the week of January 4th, we'll review the proposed budget, with the finance committee, just like we have in years past. And then there'll be a budget presentation and a public hearing for the TIF article on January 11th. That's also when we would have additional conversation about the pool vote, and probably dive into the, no pun intended, water tank. Then the following week or two, we need to finalize the warning in the week of the 18th or so. And it all needs to be done by the 25th of January. So 4 articles. Process begins the end of this week with putting the notice in the paper about Kingman. And then when we return after the holiday, a series of Mondays where we kick it off with our main proposal on the 11th and then try to finalize that over the succeeding Mondays. That sound okay? So it's really similar to what we've done in the past, but those are the steps. And it's, based on our last discussion on the pool, we'll spend some time between now and then trying to revise the plan and would come back with a revised proposal on the 11th. And we don't really need to have it finalized until the end of the month. But that's when we'll kind of take up the subject next.
I have a couple of questions. That timeline sounds great. I'm wondering if there's been any thought given on your end, Dom, to how we publicize and promote budget hearing, given that this isn't a usual situation and everybody's at home. The other factor I'm thinking of is that, you know, we're right now crafting legislation to, you know, potentially do another universal mail authorization for town meeting. And I don't know if we've given any thought to how we want to do the town meeting election, if we're just going to do it in person like we usually do and have the kind of protocols in place, or, and how that plays into your thinking about the run up.
Well, I think the authorization to do a mail-in vote is a no-brainer. And I would recommend that we conduct our vote that through a mail-in, do the same thing we did on election day. Curry and I have been kicking it around a little bit. I think we actually might get more participation in the budget hearing because of Zoom. You know, in some ways it's a lot easier just to Zoom in and keep an eye on something than come down to City Hall. And, you know, I think that's kind of what occurs between the 11th and the 25th is we have the hearings on the budget and it's very public, and that's when people have a chance to weigh in.
Maybe it's been discussed already, I'm not sure, but as far as town meeting day and the people that need to be elected, is there any thought for some alternative way to get signatures other than door to door? I mean, this doesn't make sense with COVID that people should be trying to get signatures from in their wards. And I'm wondering if anybody's thought about that.
I know my recollection is that if for petitioned public questions, the signature requirement is waived, and I thought it was the same for elections.
We waived it.
I think it was for city council. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Been a while since I've been elected, so yeah. So. Okay.
That's why there were 20 candidates for president on the ballot.
Yes, I know that, but yeah, that's true. So I guess there could be 20 candidates for city council. Who knows?
That's all I have for that.
Any other questions for Dom?
I think Kate has one.
You, Kate? No. You're just playing with a pen?
Just flailing around.
Anyone else?
I think I just want to make a comment that, you know, if the timeline was similar to last time, we are not going to be 2 weeks before election and still putting down information. We're going to need all of this ASAP. I think that's probably what Mike was trying to get at. I think that's what we did last year during the pool. We were still finding out answers really late into the process, and that won't be successful this time.
No, I agree. I think we need, like Dom said, with that timeline, we need to have all this stuff in January for sure.
Okay. I think we're moving on to Marty. To consider a request from Jeff Seafood.
Yes, you've got the memo, I believe, in your packet. Katie Lazinski is looking for a $13,300 loan to make repairs to the floor in their kitchen area, as well as the two bar areas in the two portions of the restaurant. Katie has had a few loans with us in the past, has always paid on time. I think a couple of them she even paid early. Has done very well through this pandemic, has worked very hard strategically to get people in a restaurant and get tables out on Main Street and using Bank Street. And I think should be applauded for her initiative to try to make repairs why she can get in there and maybe get it done while it's not as busy as it would be typically. So
I move that we approve the loan as presented for Jeff Seafood.
I'll second that.
Any comments or discussion? I do have one comment or suggestion. I am curious if the board would entertain a motion, amend the motion to potentially give a portion of that as a grant, just as a thank you to Jeff Seafood for their commitment to downtown and doing business. And I'm not talking a lot. The number that comes to my mind is 1,500. But to Marty's point, downtown isn't the same if that block is empty. I think sometimes when you deal with small business, you have to, as we've learned over the years, is extend a thank you once in a while. And I think it goes a long ways.
Instead of doing that, I wonder if there's something that she would like us to purchase to help her. Like maybe she wants curtains for the front windows or something else. Can we ask her that instead?
I do know, Chad, at one point we had a discussion of her changing her upholstery of her chairs and booths so that made it easier to clean in COVID times. It was easier to wipe down. I don't know if she followed through with that, but
I could find out. She had sent me a couple of quotes on getting that work done, so I can find out on that. The other thing I would just add, maybe it could be added in the motion. The term she is looking for was 36 months at a rate of 2%.
That's in the motion. That was in the document presented, right?
Right.
Yeah, I just made the motion as presented, so
okay.
It should be in there. Yeah, we should be okay.
Okay. So I can circle back on, let me talk to her about the upholstering, or if there's something else that she feels she could use, and let her know.
Okay, perfect. I'd rather just pay for the whole kit and caboodle for something that she needs.
oh, you're saying add it on to the total and then forgive that amount?
Yeah, that, or just say if she comes back and says, hey, it's $2,000 to have our stuff upholstered, we just pay to have it reupholstered.
Okay.
So for now, let's approve the motion as presented, and we can follow up with an email from Marty to let people know what that discussion is.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
That's if everyone else is amendable to that, Tim. I don't know if everyone else is okay with that.
Are people fine with that? Give me a thumbs up or tell me no. Kate's a yes.
We're voting on the motion?
No, just that we will come back to you with a conversation after we talk to Katie. Everyone's open to the fact that we will pick a cost up at some point.
So this isn't a vote, so I'm fine with it anyway. But
okay. All right. So now let's vote on the motion. A loan of $13,252, 3 years, 2% interest. Everyone, give me a thumbs up if you're on board.
Aye.
I got Chad, Jim, Mike, Marie. Hold on, Tim, and Kate. So the motion passes unanimous for the loan for $13,000, and we'll get back to you on the other discussion after this. With that, we're going to move on to my report. Couple things quickly. Marty, thanks for your team's work to get the Pelkey Christmas tree up in the park. I appreciate that.
We were going to ask Jim just to come up and put the star on top, but we couldn't.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm. We didn't want to take a chance on that.
Right.
No, actually, Mary will have to do that. That was her idea, but
Tell Mary we appreciate the input, and I think the tree looks great. It was a team effort, so thank you.
I would just add that tree was donated by Dominion Grimm, local maple equipment producer.
Oh, very nice. Thank them for it. That's great.
It was a perfect tree, so it worked out well. In Island Tree Service, the company that does a lot of cutting for us in town, provided manpower and cut it for us and helped us place it in the park. So
did you decorate it?
I supervised.
Oh, okay.
I'd also like to say I don't not everyone has had a chance to participate, but I wanted to thank Dom for his work on finding Tony to do the training that we had last Monday and Tuesday, and then again, I think they're doing it Thursday and Friday this week. I know Kate, Mike, myself, and Marie were on board. I thought the training was excellent, to the point where I suggested to Dom it may be worthwhile to bring Tony back, if budget permits, to take that away from the 101 level to more of the 201 level, and have that conversation. So, you know, when we go around, I guess I'd be curious to get everyone's comments on that. Lastly, for me, I think, hold on one second. I think, is Michelle, you're still on, Monroe. Rumor has it, Michelle, that you are moving towards retirement from the Messenger.
What?
And
It's not a rumor. I have actually left the Messenger.
Oh, wow.
Also, you're not in official duty on the call.
I am in quasi-official duty. I'm covering I'm actually covering this for another media outlet. So I'm decided to do a little freelancing. I wanted to make sure that, you know, it seemed like a meeting with where there was a lot going on, and I wasn't sure if Michael would be able to cover it or not. So I wanted to make sure that the news got out there.
So which media outlet, or can you tell us?
You'll see tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank you, Michelle, for your years of service with the Messenger, but also with the City Council, and your reporting and assisting the city to get their story across, and to your commitment to telling it the way it is, and we appreciate that. And sounds like we will continue to see you, but I wanted to thank you for your time and wish you the best.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. I appreciate that. It's you know, it was time for some changes, but you know, change is good, but it's also hard sometimes. And I'm gonna, you know, so we'll see how it turns out. But I am gonna miss covering city council meetings. I couldn't resist doing it one last time.
I'm glad you did, Michelle.
How many years were you there, Michelle?
13.
13.
Yep, 13. So it was a lot of city council meetings.
That is, yeah.
I think, but Chad and Tim, I think, have been to more. Chad and Tim Hawkins, but.
Well, we wish you luck, and thank you again.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It was good to see you all.
I also have some appointments that need to be made. We have, as you saw in an email that was sent out, we had individuals from the downtown board, Rachel Sink, Maureen Brown, and Donna Howard, that were up for renewal. Based on the recommendation of Chip, we felt no need to re-interview them based on their performance, that they're doing a wonderful job. But we do need to make a motion to appoint those three back for another term on the downtown board.
I'll make a motion to appoint incumbents Maureen Brown, Donna Howard, and Rachel Sink for new 3-year terms.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. Seconded by Marie. Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye, give a thumbs up. Motion passes. We also had a seat on the Development Review Board. Dick Thayer is coming up due on the 31st of this month. And Chip would like us to reappoint Dick on that one as well. Is that correct, Chip?
Yes, of course. Yep.
So we, well, two things. Well, let's do it separately. So we had Dick Thayer for a reappointment. Can I get a motion for that?
Make a motion to appoint Dick Thayer, 3-year term, DRB.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Chad. Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye with a thumbs up. And then, thank you, the motion passes. And then this past Thursday, Mike, Chad, and I interviewed one candidate for that vacancy left by Owen Manahan not renewing his spot. And that individual was Emily Barone, and lives in St. Albans on Messenger Street. We had a what I think Mike, Chad, and I would consider one of our better interviews for sure. And Mike,
Motion to Emily Byron for a 3-year term DRB.
Second. Mike seconded.
Motion by Mike, or excuse me, motion by Tim, seconded by Mike. Highly recommended by the 3 of us. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thumbs up. Thank you. No opposition. So Emily Barone is appointed to the Development Review Board.
Can I just ask a question on that, Tim?
Sure.
Did Matt not want to move from his alternate spot to a full spot? Because was it Matt
Yes,
Freedom?
I asked Matt, and he said he'd prefer to stay in his alternate spot.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chip. Okay, let's go around, see if anyone has any comments or questions. We'll start with the Bs. Is there anyone with a last name beginning with a B out there?
I would think that's me. No, nothing at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marie. Hold on, I think I gotta do my alpha, A, B, C, D, F, G. Now I think we go to H.
My maiden name was a B. Can't I go next?
I'm not gonna play favorites on maiden names, Kate. So we go to H, actually. We're going to Mr. Hawkins.
Only one thing is the lights at Weldon and Main Street. Are those on motion?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they are, they're not working.
They've been working. They've been working. They've been working for me, Tim.
Went through, Tim.
This past weekend.
Okay, we'll check them again, because the last time we had a report they weren't. Tony went up and tested them all, and they were.
Okay, it looked like the for the traffic going east and west on
Lower Weldon and Upper Weldon.
They weren't calling the light off.
Okay, we can check it tomorrow.
Yeah, they were working for me earlier, so maybe it might be intermittent.
Okay.
So I use that intersection all the time, and you have to pull way down by the stop sign, or it doesn't read your car. I don't know that, because I sat there for 15 minutes one time. Like, what is going on?
Yeah. That's all I have, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. We'll move on to the L's. Kate.
Yeah, I wanted to just sort of second what Eric brought up earlier about the traffic on Ferris Street. I have been hearing a bit about it from other people, not just Eric. So I know we said we'd look into it, but I just wanted to, I didn't say anything earlier, but I just wanted to voice some support for looking into that. I don't know why the parking has gotten worse on that block between Fairfield and Ferris, but that's part of the problem. There's just a lot of cars parked there, sometimes too close to the corner.
There's several apartment houses in that section, and that's the issue you have when you don't have enough off-street parking. They're gonna park in the street, so.
And
it does
challenge.
So Marty, you don't think it's school related?
I don't think in that section it is. We have no parking from here to corner, just before you hit Ferris Street. And then we have another one on the other side going towards Fairfield, but the cars are typically there after school. They belong to tenants in those 3 apartment houses. One CHT owns, and I think the other 2 north of that.
Okay.
And we've made an effort to in the last couple of weeks to go up. Steve has been monitoring that, so ticketing cars that are parked too close to the corner. The other thing we had done at one time was had signs up there, and there's still signs in that section: no parking between 8 and 10 a.m. And that discourages the students that are coming there for school to park there. So.
Okay, thanks for that. Mr. Mayor, I wanted to say that I really enjoyed your last letter that was in the bills inserted. I thought that was well done.
Thank you, Kate.
And then I also just wanted to say I did really enjoy the training that we had with Tony Hudson. Thought it was really, really powerful, really thought-provoking, had some great discussions. And as a side benefit, like I talked to a bunch of people on other boards who I had not really ever met and really enjoyed that. And I actually thought it was a good exercise for, you know, people who are volunteering on boards to kind of get to meet and greet and network a little bit. So I appreciated it.
I agree with that. Anything else, Kate? All set. We'll move on to the M's. Anyone with last name M?
I think that's me. I don't have anything for my ward. I'll echo what Kate said. The training was really well done. That was an incredible choice in facilitator. You know, in some of the difficult conversations, in some of the breakouts and during the sessions, I think they revealed how important it is that we keep that commitment to learning more about how to talk about racism in an authentic and real way. So thanks for facilitating all of that.
We'll move on to the P's.
You know, the pathetic thing is when you said B, I had to stop for a minute, make sure it wasn't me. But now that the Pelkey Christmas tree's up, we're good. No, no, I have nothing in my ward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, we go to the S's now. Sorry about that.
Only got 13 things.
You could just skip the S's.
Just kidding. I just want to mention that actually downtown, it looks absolutely fantastic. Did a great job with the lights. Gotten a lot of great comments, seen a lot of great comments on social media. So kudos to Marty and your group for doing that. Thank you. The only other thing I want to say is when I was a little kid, they buried some old tractor tires in Houghton Park and you had an old culvert on its side. That was our playground equipment.
We can see if we can dig those up, Chad. I think they're still there.
I remember that.
And the lighting,
I appreciate it.
the lighting credit goes to Heath McAllister and his crew. They were the ones.
Chad, you're older than I thought.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I love it.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Yeah, we had, Chad, there was cement sewer tile. 3 or 4 of them that we painted.
Yeah, I think it was the catch basins. They had the catch basins. Yeah, that was our playground equipment. Yeah.
Well, you had an advantage over us up on Barlow because we actually used to just play in the brook.
Oh, we did that too.
But Chad's was contaminated. Yours wasn't.
Shit runs downhill.
Now, when I was growing up here, we had that long block from down to the end of Hoyt Street, and had some friends in there. How we used to play, we used to just go through walls from one apartment to the other. It's that bad. It was not bad shape. That was our playground.
Is there any other business that anyone would like to bring up? Hearing none, we'll move to minutes and warrants. We've got a number of different minutes to approve.
Motion to approve 10/12/20.
Second.
Motion from Tim, seconded by Chad to approve 10/12/20. All those in favor say aye.
Or 2 abstains.
Jim, you abstain?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to 11/9/20.
Motion to approve 11/9/20 minutes.
Second.
Motion by Tim, seconded by Jim. 11/9 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving
Motion to approve special meeting 11/10/20.
Second.
Motion to approve minutes from 11/10/20 by Tim, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And last,
Motion to approve
11.
11/15/20.
Second.
Motion by Tim, seconded by Jim to approve minutes from 11/15/20. All those in favor say aye. Unanimous, motion passes. We now entertain motion to approve warrant 11/25/20.
Motion to approve 25/20.
Second.
Motion by Tim, seconded by Jim to approve warrant 11/25/20. All those in favor, give a thumbs up. Any opposition? Seeing none, motion passes to approve warrant 11/25/20. And I would now entertain a motion to adjourn unless anyone else has any other comments.
So moved.
Motion by Jim,
Second.
seconded by Mike. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time. I wish everyone happy holidays.
Same to you.
I wish you all the best and stay healthy. Thank you for your commitment to the city. Greatly appreciated. Mike?
Thank you.